Good? Okay. So we want to do kind of a Q&A, make it a little more fun for the group, and let Cody talk really about three things, right? Number one, for you guys who don't know his story, I think it's one of the greatest stories ever told, and I'm not just saying that. I'm literally, I'm so inspired by it that me and Cody together making a documentary on this. We've been filming it, actually with Gaston right here, and and when this comes out, you know, it'll be probably about a year from now that it actually comes out, whether you see it on Netflix or ESPN or Hulu or whatever platform ends up acquiring it. It will be one of the greatest sports stories ever told, and the comeback and the journey and just the life story of Cody's been amazing. It's such an inspiration to so many people, not only Maddox, but just anybody who's a fan of the underdog and just coming back. And Cody's story has been incredible. So number one, chat about that, you know. Number two, just some words of wisdom. He's been through, man, and I'm with Cody on a daily and weekly basis. He's been through more than, I'd venture to say, any human I've ever met, just like constantly, and Zach can attest to it too. Like, just he battles stuff on a weekly basis that when you watch some highlight, you're like, man, this guy's story is incredible. Like, he just went like this. It's like, no, Cody's story is like, he has had a lot of tough times that he's overcome, and he's gotten through adversity and perseverance. And so I think it'd be great to talk about that. And the third thing is, about roughly a month ago, Cody was diagnosed with a blood clot, and he had thought he had a torn bicep, and was it 3 weeks ago? I don't know, my brain.
2 months now.
2 months. I live in this weird world that time doesn't.
We found out probably a month ago it was a blood clot.
Yeah. Okay. That's what it is. So 2 months ago he got the blood clot. A month ago, and we can talk about that. He actually got diagnosed with the doctor. Diagnosed it a month ago. I diagnosed it six weeks ago, by the way, for the record. And it's a true story, actually. I don't want to. You know, you see the world from your lens. I'm like, I don't want to say you have a blood clot, but I feel like you got a blood clot. He's like, no, it's a torn bicep. I'm like. So I thought it'd be great to talk about. Those are the three things. So I'm gonna give the mic over to Cody. Let's just welcome him one more time. So Cody Garbrandt.
Thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure to come to speak with Jeremy and all of his workers. So thanks again. We did a 50-mile ride this morning at 5, so I'll give you some good energy. But yeah, definitely, it's been a crazy year, I think, for everybody with the pandemic. I can say for me as well, it's been a crazy year of health problems and issues. Stemming back to February, I was hospitalized. I was getting ready for a fight in March. A huge fight. I was actually getting a fight in my home state of Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio. And that's where I was going to start my comeback in the state of Ohio and get back to the title shot and then bring the title back to Sacramento. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I was, in the hospital with a kidney infection. I was in the hospital 3 or 4 different times. That's how I started out my year. And then obviously the UFC shut down with the pandemic of COVID. And I'm going to some specialists out there, figuring out what was going on, and having to do a bunch of blood cultures and seeing an infectious disease doctor out here that actually gave me the right antibiotic to kill the infection that was in my body that was attacking my kidneys. So we, battled back from that in the beginning of the year just to get back into the octagon. And I can say I started my first week at training camp in Jeremy's garage. He was my personal trainer for a week. I came out there and I was like, I don't know, Jeremy, I just got to start working out. They gave me the go-ahead to try to ease back into it. Obviously, I'm not going to go there and spar and get the crap kicked out of me when I'm still, recovering from this kidney infection. So Jeremy wrote up some workouts on his chalkboard and we did them. So that's how I started my camp.
He did them, I watched.
So that's how I started my camp, and then the fight was rescheduled for June 6th in Las Vegas. The UFC developed and built an Apex Performance Center that we were going to go there and do testing, COVID testing, get quarantined, and then have our fight. So thankfully we were able to get the fights in June. But prior to that, it was constant in and out of the Fusion Center. The infection came back. 2 weeks before the fight, I was back in I had to go for the infusion center to get a anabolic drip to help with the infection, to kill it completely. For some reason, we didn't know if it was hiding in my, my valves of my heart. I have some hardware in my hand from breaking my fist in my first pro fight, so they, said that things can hide and, infections can hide in places where the blood can't flow. So numerous tests in between training and everything. So they came back 10 days, about 14 days before I actually was scheduled to fight. I didn't let the UFC know that I was going and getting treated for this because I didn't want to be pulled out of the fight. I told Jeremy, I was like, man, I just kept telling him, I said, I just got to get in that octagon. Once I get in the octagon, it'll be fine. I'll persevere through all this, just getting me in there. And I just needed it for my soul. I, came from being a world champion, undefeated, to a 3-fight loss. And I just needed to get back in there, so I was willing to do whatever it was, but I kept getting these hurdles and little adversity, just coming over it, And I just know that I needed to get in the octagon. I know I put the hard work in. I trained, literally since way before Christmas. I was in the gym, in and out of the gym because of obviously, the infections and hospitalizations. I think I was hospitalized 4 times this year with that infection, and then was able to, get the infection clear. Was COVID negative. Got a fight. Was ended up going there and ended up knocking out a veteran. Rafael Sunsao was, one of the guys that was in the top of the division for nearly 15 years. I mean, he's fought some of the best, right there at the top. So it was in a really good knockout, put me right back into title contentions. A few months later, we got called for an opportunity to go down to the flyweight title and fight for the flyweight world championship. And that was supposed to be November 21st. Jeremy and I went to LA we're sponsored with Smart Cups. It's the first printed beverage, Smart Cups. It's pretty cool technology. So we went down there for like a quick video shoot with Mike Tyson, and I had to get COVID tested. Found out I was COVID positive. I had vertigo for like 2 months. I kept telling Jeremy, like, man, I don't know. I keep getting dizzy. I couldn't even sleep, lay down, look left or right. Even driving was horrible. And the spells would last, 3-4 minutes, and progressively I kept training through it, not knowing what was happening. And then it got to where it was hours and hours where I'd be spinning at night, like up all night, just felt like I was drunk spinning, when I get physically sick. And then we went down to LA and felt okay, the day that we got tested. I was like, man, I woke up actually telling Jeremy, I was like, we went out the night before and had a few drinks, had some nice dinner. I was like, man, I feel great this morning. I went and got tested, had COVID. So I've been battling that, that was the start of camp. We were about 13 weeks out, so I'm like, hey, no worries, I'll beat COVID and get back to training. I'll still have, 7-8 weeks of getting ready to fight for this title. And I kept testing positive for COVID, for like 2 months. I kept having the vertigo. It wasn't going away. Ended up flying to the Mayo Clinic in Arizona, thinking I had Meniere's disease. They thought I had some kind of crystals out on my ear, so I did all these crazy tests. Then finally I was on a Z-Pack and some antibiotic for, steroid for my lungs. I had pneumonia, and felt like, all right, I'm good, I'm clear. I got back to training because the whole time I was off the gym, I was actually just getting into cycling a lot, putting a lot of road miles in. And I got back to the MMA gym, thought that, I felt my arm for a while, like my bicep was pretty sore, but usually when I start doing MMA, the stress level intensifies a lot. So I just thought I was sore, from not doing MMA for a year, or for a month. And so then I kept going, and I was hitting pads one day, and then I woke up in the middle of the night. I felt a little tight, woke up in the middle of the night, like excruciating pain. When I looked, like my bicep was just over, like just out of place, and it looked like a torn bicep, how they look on, when you have something, everyone goes to Google, I'm gonna Google this, and that's what it looked like. And my brother was up this morning. I had to go to the train the next day, and I was like, man, I think I can train right now. It's super sore. I thought my arm was infected. And so I hit my doctor up and I said, hey, I got a break in between training because I was supposed to do like some hill sprints. I'm like, all right, maybe I won't do contact, but I'll go and do some hill sprints instead. I was like, can you just check this out? And then I got an ultrasound and he thought it was a torn bicep. Later we find out that it was I tore my vein. And then we go and get the MRI, everything was intact. The doctors were very surprised. There was no torn muscle, it was a completely torn vein. And then they found blood clots in my arm. So that's what sidelined me and took me out of the fight November 21st. But luckily, the UFC has told me that once I'm healthy, recovered, I get the winner. They replace me on November 21st. So hopefully these dudes don't go in there and beat the shit out of each other too much, that they're able to bounce back quick. So hopefully for end of February, March fight, and it allows me kind of to heal. I'm on blood thinners right now. And this was, definitely a shock for me, being young, healthy. Obviously getting COVID, I was always kind of cautious with it because I saw some people have it, or knew that it was probably a serious thing, but never thinking that I would get it, or if I did get it, I'm healthy, I take care of myself, I recover well. I didn't think that it would affect me like it has affected me. So then obviously in the blood clots too, my grandma has factor V, so I know a lot about blood clots and her medicine that she would take for it. So like I said, I never thought that it would affect me. Didn't think that I was a blood clot. Like I said, Jeremy was telling me for a month, he's like, dude, I think you have a blood clot. And I was like, oh, there's no way. And then I got out of the hospital that day. I called Jeremy. I was like, you won't believe this. He's like, what? He's like, I have a blood clot, 2 blood clots. So yeah, just a lot of a crazy year for me. I mean, like I said before, a crazy year from everybody, but at a health standpoint, I feel like once I just get healthy, it's they're just pulling me back right now. Once I can full throttle it and get back into the gym and really train like I'm able to, I know that title is just it's destiny for me. It's just a timing place right now. So just everything happens in timing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so I thought it'd be interesting just to open up for questions, just to have a chance. If you have a question, we walk up right here behind Max, and we'll just do an open panel. I thought it'd be pretty interesting for the group. So I'll start with the first question. If you got one, walk up here. I'll put you on the mic, and you can ask it. So for me, the question I had for you, I thought that relates to sales reps because I know you talked about this prior in Orange County when we were down there. It relates a lot because as a sales rep, you're constantly battling adversity, and there's a lot of trials associated with just selling in general. It's not like super easy. People that have never sold don't realize the sales world is tough. There's a lot of objections, adversity, trials, challenges you have in just the average day of a sales rep, and you've gone through more challenges and adversity than anybody I've met. Even the story he just told is only like 1% of the stuff that Cody's gone through. That's the very quick version of Cody's life. So what is it for you that because everybody's got a why, right? The mission, the vision, what pushes you to go on to the next level where a lot of people would give up. Does that make sense?
I think for me, my why is obviously my son. He's 2.5 years old. But prior to that, I know that the window of my career is very limited. It's only open so long and it shuts. So for me to endure the pain, the suffering of training and the injuries and the losses that come in fighting, I know that I get to live my dream. This is something that was I was blessed with. For whatever reason, I've always had fighting in my life, whether it was negative or positive. I took it as a positive outlook that I was like, I'm gonna make something of myself through fighting. No matter people told me that I would never make anything through fighting. It's funny that I'm sitting here now as a former world champion about to fight for another world championship. But the things I was able to experience and see through fighting has been just amazing. The people I've been able to meet and come in contact with. But my reason why I would just to know that once that window closes and there's no, time we can never get time back. So for me to go in and do that every day, I wake up hey, I'm gonna hit the snooze button, I'll go later, I'll train later, I'll do this later. There's not gonna be a later. There's gonna be a time where I'm looking back later in life wishing that I didn't leave it all, or I did leave it all inside there, no matter what goes on with the rest of my career, that I can, leave this sport or this career with my head high, whether I win more titles or I might get my ass kicked my next few fights, and then I'll be like, hey, I'm just gonna walk out here and I'm tired of getting beat up. But hopefully that doesn't happen. But obviously the window closes. So that's my reason why, just to do it all. You only have one life. I was able to be blessed with this dream. I have a lot of God-given talents, but also I work extremely hard, and I think the product of my environment that I was raised in showed me just to overcome a lot of adversity, and I think that's what pushes me to be the best. very competitive. Obviously, my brother can tell you that. We've always been competitive, so to be the best, obviously, there's a reason why as well. To say, you know, I'm the best in the world, and to work towards that is my reasons why.
That's awesome, man. All right, Michael, I got a question too, but I'll let you go first.
Okay, I was gonna say I follow both Jeremy and you on Instagram, and I think your friendship is so funny to see you guys like together, like you guys are like cool as like friends, like you guys are always like road biking and stuff. And I was just wondering, like, what are the best things you've learned from Jeremy? Because I'm sure he learns a lot from you, and you
Great
learn a lot
question.
from him.
Yeah, that's a great question, and you know, definitely, I can contest to a lot of people say the same thing when I meet people that know Jeremy. You know, obviously, when you have a relationship with him, he's first and foremost treats everyone the same. You know, no one's, you know, high or low on his pedestal. So that's awesome. I like how he treats people. He's you know, treats people with respect and kindness. I feel like that is number one thing that I love about Jeremy. He's the nicest person to everybody. It could be a stranger on the street. Jeremy will have a conversation with him, like, hey, we have dinner reservations. Let's go, man. Like, he's just having a conversation and, you know, talking. So obviously that part of Jeremy I really like. But the relationship that I like with Jeremy that I've learned from him so much, obviously, is his a lot about business, but also the balance of life. I feel like I'm so good at my career and focusing on that he has helped show me a different side of balance. And that's one thing that I've been trying to learn, you know, as a new father, you know, the balance of the father-son time, which I absolutely love spending as much time as I can with my son, but balancing that, you know, personal life, relationships, you know, finances. Like, he's helped me out so much of just balancing my life. You know, obviously he has 4 children. He runs you know, amazing companies all over the place, you know, always, no matter what, if he's on vacation, we're in the gym, he's on, you know, 45 to a minute to an hour phone call doing work, you know, so he's constantly, just his work ethic too, you know, no matter if he's on vacation. And the same thing that, you know, we pull from each other, I think, is that hard work ethic, and just know we're going to get the job done. He works fast, I work fast, so I feel like that's something I've learned a lot, was the balance. And then obviously, you know, getting him up and putting him in the latex suit. He loves those spandex on the bicycle, so he looks good in them, right?
A side note too, when Cody says I train with him, I mean, the reality is, like, even biking 2 years ago, like, I'm chasing him and Zach. I'm putting 100%, 110% of my effort into this. Like, I got to keep up with these guys. And they're like, okay, that was a warm up. You ready to get started? I'm like, oh my God. Like, and they just through the hills, and they pause and wait 5 minutes for me to get to them eventually, and then go again. But it's, yeah, so even the training in the gym, I do not train Cody at all. He's like,
We use his equipment.
you use my equipment. That's it. So, you have a question too?
Yeah, this has nothing to do with Jeremy, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
No, so we have a lot of stories that we follow with, like, professional athletes who've gotten blood clots, and like kind of how it's affected their mentality of, they didn't even know about it, to now they do, now they're going on blood thinners, and how it kind of affects them in their career or whatnot. How has that kind of affected you now that you're on blood thinners now, and how you're kind of seeing that progress? Because our whole deal is preventing it so someone never gets to this point, right? So it's a good story for us to tell.
I feel like I'm pretty early on in the diagnosis of having a blood clot, obviously on the blood thinners. It's absolutely sidelined me, you know, it took me away from a world championship fight. You know, I could have been holding the world championship in November 21st, but you know, I think things come and go to you. You know, I think God places things in your life and takes them away just to show you, you know, what you can persevere and overcome. So for me, it's obviously, you know, it's been super negative, but I've taken a positive from it. You know, I've been able to really this year take a really good standpoint on my health, nutrition. I think for me, it's always been a war on nutrition. I'm always one of those guys that's always just going to train and grind through it. And so I feel like keeping my health up to date, doing the blood checks, making sure like everything's up to par. You know, I have a really good doctor that I go and see, that I can call him anytime. But just being more, I think as I get older in the career and in my sport, we've always been told to kind of just like shut that stuff out. Like, oh, just, there's a difference between being hurt and having an injury. So we've always, our whole entire life, just kind of just, you know, grind through the pain. But obviously, I want to have longevity in my career. You know, I want to definitely have 8 to 10 more years, hopefully. I don't know. Maybe can retire before that. But so definitely just being more in depth with my body. I feel like I really am, but really noticing the pullback. Like obviously this blood clot was, set me back, but obviously it was getting on the road bike, so I was able to work around it. But knowing really what blood clots were and how they would, it was super serious. I didn't think that, I thought I had to be back in the gym. I was hitting my doctor up, and like 3 days later after it started feeling a little bit better, still was sore, not as tender. He's like, you're gonna be on blood thinners. You can't take, any hits to the head. Like, you have no contact. I'm like, and it kind of let me realize how serious blood clots were. I never thought it was as serious as it were. Started doing my research, reading up on things. Obviously, my grandma's dealt with them, but definitely just being more active in knowing what they are and how they affect your body.
Wait, real quick. Can I say one thing just real quick? Because a lot of people don't catch this. Like, Cody's like positivity is so high. Quick little, just 1 minute side story. We're filming this documentary, and the director of the documentary is a world-known director. He's amazing. But he pulls me aside while we're filming the documentary. He's like, "Can you tell Cody to be negative just for like a minute?" Because like, in the documentary, the way you do a documentary, you got to go down low and then come back up. You can't start and just go straight up. You got to create someone probably knows, there's some word for it, but like basically got to create the whole storyline and create the drama, and like, I'm so down, I don't know if I can do this, and then you go up. Does it make sense? It's kind of, I guess he's educating us. And I had to go to Cody. I'm like, "Can you be negative?" And he's like, "Wait, you want me to be negative?" Like it's like not even the director's like, he's one of the rare, and he's met a lot of famous athletes, celebrities, filmed tons of stuff. He's like, I think one of the few things that sets Cody apart, and people probably don't even know this in this room, like there's been tens of thousands of fighters that have walked in the octagon and fought. And Cody's, if he wins the next fight, he will be only the 7th human ever to walk this earth. Only 7 humans have won the title belt at 2 different weight classes. And he's already won at 135. And he won it again at 125. And that's something that is really, really tough to do. And he'll be one of 7 humans to ever do that. And Ryan's like, man, I think the thing that sets Cody apart, like this elite athlete that on a caliber that nobody else is at, is one of the things is his positivity. Like he is just, when you wake up and the way your mind works, like you are a very, very positive person. So I don't know if that's like just who you are, or if that's something you condition yourself to be, or maybe it's just who you are at the core.
Yeah, possibly. I think that I'm living my dream, so it's like I feel blessed to be able to have air in my lungs, roof over my head, and food on the table. But then I get to go out and go to a job that I enjoy, that I love, that I have so much reward for, and learn so much about myself as a person. I'm in there every day, basically training myself to push past my barriers and my limits. So I get to go and do that every single day to feel, just to get to that point of exhaustion and wanting to quit, like breaking point. I get to go there and push myself every single day. So for me, it's just I enjoy that. I enjoy that challenge. I enjoy the suffering, and I think there's there's growth, and there's growth in suffering. I truly believe that, and with wins and losses, I think that my profession allows me to be at the highest of highs. A big win, everyone's wanting to call you, wanting to hang out, everything. Things are great. Everyone's awesome, and it can be the lowest of lows. You know what I mean? Like the losses is some of my darkest times, but I look at it as I've had less in my life and been in worse off positions. If I lose a UFC fight or a UFC title, and that's the worst thing that happens to me in my life, then I live a pretty good life, And I pull back from Maddox. I watched him since he was 5 years old struggle just to have a beginning, to have a childhood. He was so young and so full of life, to be going and literally having to do chemo every week, and just the things that he had to go through. It put my life in perspective, because I was going down the wrong path. I was being not such a good human, and I feel like, I did actually went to church. It's been a while. I was in Jersey and went the last time. I went to Bayside, and it was awesome church. and the message was, death has a way of prioritizing our life, excuse me, and that's true. Like, death can really show you a lot about which way your life can go and what's the outcome, what we can go from that. So I just kind of look back on it, like, I chose this life, I chose to put myself in the suffering, as hard as it is and as painful as it is sometimes, and then also what it teaches me in life. It teaches me about balance. I'm never too high off a win, I'm never too low off a loss, and that goes back to getting mentorship from Jeremy about the balance of life. So I just feel like it's a great way to push myself to have that career and have good people that I've met. Obviously, I met some horrible people that's steered me in the wrong direction, but that's how you live and you learn. That's all about growing up and growing with experience. So.
That's cool, man. Max.
Yeah, you might have answered it with the positivity, but is there any encouragement or maybe lessons, if you will, when you were a world champ and then you had 3 losses in a row, and then you had that amazing knockout? Because we set goals and sometimes we hit our goals and then things happen or whatever the case may be, and maybe after that goal you start to go down and then you need to get yourself back up. Like, is there anything that you could encourage us with, or you would have done differently in those 3 fights, or mentality now that you have it back and you're back where you need to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I fixated on being a world champion since I was 11, 12 years old, and I literally focused on that. That was my light at the end of the tunnel. Just work hard, get there. Visualizing Dana White strap the gold belt around my waist, Bruce Buffer, saying Ian New, UFC, world champion. I heard those voices in training and things when I was just so far away. I was an amateur. I had a couple fights and just getting started in my career. So I felt like that was the light at the end of the tunnel. But when I got to the world championship and I won the world championship, I saw everybody. It was. I wasn't surprised that I won it. Not to sound unhumble, but I visualized that for so much that I knew that was going to happen. It was my destiny to be a world champion. And I felt like a lot of people were so surprised or changed around me that I didn't put my goals high enough. I needed to strive to have unrealistic goals. It almost be insane to think about your goals being so high. So I feel like setting your goals high, even though being a world champion is a huge goal, especially when you're 12 years old and you never fought in the cage before. I just always visualized that, but once I got to that, I needed to set my goals a little higher. I think the number one thing, and Jeremy's just so amazing with that, is prioritizing your life, setting goals, yearly, monthly, weekly, I think that's so important to keep you on track and balance. And I felt like once I won the world championship, my life was it was crazy after that. I really was. I never pictured anything but being a world championship. I didn't picture, the sponsorship, the endorsements, the flights all over the place, the book deals, the movie they wanted, I didn't picture any of that. I just wanted to fight. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be the best in the world. And that's why I spoke with Dana and Lorenzo Petitos when they owned the UFC, when they brought me in after one of my big first wins. I was like, please don't sideline me. I enjoy fighting so much. I feel like my soul needs it more than anything. Just keep me busy. That's what I want to do is fight. So I feel like I just need to make higher goals. After you reach that, go more. And I think one of the reasons why I wasn't able to do that, because right after the title, I tore my knee in the fight, and with the Cruz fight, had surgery in LA like a week after, and then I went on the Ultimate Fighter, and I'm tearing my back. Had to go to Germany and do a procedure over there. So I was out for almost a year, and my whole time that I was rehabbing, I wasn't focused on being in the cage. I was focused on getting healthy. So I never put myself in that horrible position where, I'd be getting my head pounded in, like that motivates me. That gets me up and puts the extra work in. That gets me up at 5 in the morning, go and, do 50 miles, or that puts the extra work in when you visualize yourself in those kind of situations. So for me, I wasn't able to put myself mentally in there, and physically, I wasn't the same person I was. It took me a year of rehab, and I still felt like I just didn't, I just didn't put myself mentally there. I didn't work on my mental fortitude. Physically, I'm always show up. I'm ready to fight. I mean, I can flip a switch right now and kick Jeremy's ass. But no. But so I just didn't work on that. I feel like I'm a fighter always, but the mental aspect, I didn't mentally prepare for what was going to happen. I had a huge fight. It was to defend my world championship in Madison Square Garden. I just mentally, I wasn't there. I felt like I was just stuck in that. All right, I'm just gonna do honestly, I was a little insane. I felt like, when you think that you have it figured out, you're doing the same process, same thing, that's a little insane. Had to switch it up, so I went out to New Jersey this last camp, got a new head coach, took myself out of my comfort zone. I have a son that's, was 2 at the time. The simplest thing, I felt like, what was I willing to do that my opponent wasn't? I'm going across country to a new camp, to a new coach. I'm sleeping not in my same bed. I don't get to see my son. Luckily, there's technology, we can FaceTime. But, what was I willing to do to get out of my comfort zone? Just to switch it up, to see if I love fighting, but if I can go out there for months on end, be away, and just go out there and focus. And that's what it was, just get back to being hungry. We're in a sport where these guys are, I don't even want to call it a sport, because fighting, I've never been in a sport where someone wants to kill you. Break your arm, knock you out, choke you out. So you have to be hungry in this sport or you're gonna get killed. And I think that hunger wasn't there for a little bit because I was just so focused on getting healthy. And mentally, I'm ready, we're going to battle. I prepare myself to go to battle. I always tell my coaches, like, whatever happens in there, like, we can come out with my shoulder, carry it on, so I feel like every time I step inside the octagon, I leave a piece of myself in there. And for those, few fights, I just felt like I was going through the motions. And I'm sure a lot of you guys probably feel like that sometimes in sales. You're killing it 1 month, and the next month you're not, and you feel like, you're kind of not at the top of your game. So it just felt like a fog for me. So sometimes what I'm gonna advise you to do is get out of your comfort zone. Just set the goals, reach them, set them high. Do something that's going to get you out of your comfort zone and make you hungry and make you just keep pushing to become better in your field of work. Life, I think obviously balancing your life, your partying, your social life, everything life's about balance, and that's what I think that I've done recently better than I've done the past 3 years, is just balance of life.
I think a question. I want to piggyback something because I think this gets lost in translation sometimes. It's like if you're taking notes, like the one note-taking section. So me and Cody talk a lot and work a lot about balance, right? Talk about, like, there's the wheel of life. So it's like 8 different categories in the wheel of life, like, fitness, family, relationships, finances, spirituality. Like, you go through the whole wheel of life, right? And Cody's been really, really good about finding balance. I think that's helped him. But there's a flip side to that. This is where people don't understand. And I'm actually writing a book on this, and it'll be good. I'm gonna talk about it tomorrow a little bit. And it's and the paradox is this. So a lot of people understand balance. You can Google it. Like, there's a shitload of stuff on Google about balance. But there's something people don't talk about, and it's intentional imbalance, right? So what Cody is telling you is, like, he is now more balanced than he was 2 or 3 years ago, and we work on that. But the thing that sets him apart, and he did this, Max, before. This is like the takeaway for you. Before I met him, like, the reason he became world champion, when he commits to something, he is 100% committed. I mean, his story that he just did the last fight, which he probably tell you the 3 fights before, he was not 100% vested in it. What changed is, and I knew going to that last fight, like, Cody's gonna fucking knock this guy out. We had a bet, me and Uriah were sitting there watching it, and we all bet, and I'm like, he'll knock him out second round. Because I'm like, I think Cody's gonna be a little more patient this fight, because he's like, just because of the past. I'm like, he's just gonna go a little patient. He's probably gonna knock him out first round, but he'll be patient, feel it out, and then he'll knock him out second round. And then Uriah turns to me with 10 seconds left. He's like, you lost the bet. I'm like, fuck.
and I looked at it, it's like 8-7. And then Cody touches the side of the octagon. It's called the Tyson 2. I actually talked to Mike Tyson about this. He was like so happy. He's like, that's my punch. And Cody touches the side of the octagon, comes up, boom, knock. Did you guys see the knockout? It is like, Dana White even says it's one of the greatest knockouts ever in all of UFC history. It's amazing knockout. I'm super blessed because I have the gloves that sit right above my office. So if I'm ever having like a bad day or a tough day, I look up those. I'm like, dude, it's just so motivating for me. It fires me up. And Bruce, you kind of talked about how much Cody's story motivated you. But what people don't get, and he's mentioned it, is the intentional imbalance. So like, that just doesn't happen for Cody. He went for 12 weeks. We all operate off the 12-week year. He went out to New Jersey. He trained with Mark Henry. He put in insane hours. He left his family. He left his son. He left all his friends. And he was like, I'm going to put my head down for this sprint of life. He doesn't do that it's not every single day for 365 days a year, but for that 12 weeks before the fight, his training camp, he is 100% committed to do that. You know, if you did that in sales, Max, you would fucking wipe out everybody in this room too. But we just don't do it, right? It's almost like selling books. Like, if you put your head down and really went for it for like a 12-week, like harvest time, you put for 3 months, you wake up 5 a.m. and you fucking just go for it with like reckless abandonment, and you work really, really hard until when the sun comes down. Then you get rest and you go at it again, and you are committed to that one thing for a short period. And then when that period's over, you go back and you live a balanced life. Make sense? And it's that one period is intentional imbalance. And that's what I personally learned from Cody that motivated me towards business. I'm like, dude, let's set a big goal. He's got massive goals. And just seeing his passion and desire and just just like, I don't know, just like laser focus towards a goal and being a little bit in balance in life for that 12-week period, and then coming back and being balanced again. I think that's what people don't catch, you know? And it's a paradox. You want to live a balanced life in general, but every so often you take 12 weeks, you listen to the story of Kobe Bryant, you listen to the story of LeBron James. These guys go take sections of their life, and that's all they do is commit to something to be one of the greatest in the world. So, I mean, that's like, you can talk about it real quick, but.
Yeah, definitely. Like Jeremy stated, we have fight camp, so I'm always training, like year-round. We're training. I'm getting my brother up at 5 in the morning, making him go do 50 miles, 100 miles with me. He's not too happy about it, but he goes, and it's good. So I'm always training year-round. But in fight camp, usually I like a 12-week camp just because there's so many things that happen in fight. I can, you know, who knows? There's always something. I mean, this year's been crazy. So, but the past, there's always something that pops up. You know, a shoulder dislocation or who knows, stitches all the time, cut open. So there's something that's always going to happen. You're going to have to take probably 4 to 5 days off during that 12-week camp to where you're going to let your body reset, kind of heal, obviously. So 12 weeks is just like a fight camp, and it's for me, I enjoy it because I like to have that just moment in my life where I'm focused and fixated on this is what I'm going to do. And it's easier for me, I think, in my field of profession because I have an opponent. So I study that opponent. I watch breakdown fight film, interviews. I watch his interviews to see how he's speaking, to see what kind of fight he's going to bring me, see if he's mentally into it. You know, I look at his tone of voice, I watch his eyes. I get down to like nitty gritty everything. I'm trying to get every edge on this guy. If he's posting on Instagram, usually the guys block me because I always talk shit to him on media, so they just like always block me. I'm blocked by him. I'm like, man, I always show respect after the fight, but I had talked hella shit before. And but so I always just try to watch what they're training, what they're doing, you know, and I'm just trying to get the edge. So for that 12 weeks, I'm just like fixated on whoever my opponent is, my adversary, and like I don't have like really ill will towards them, but I'm gonna make him pay at the end of the day, you know, because I'm away from my son, away from my comfort zone. I'm out in flipping freezing ass cold New Jersey. Like that place is horrible, like especially in the winter. And it's always in the winter when I go have camps out there. So yeah, I moved here from Ohio. I was like, I'm done with the winter. I'm done with the cold, and came here. And obviously now I'm back in Jersey training half time, so I still split my time up. But that 12-week period, I get spiritually, you know, I balanced, leveled. I start reading books. I mean, I just really invest in myself on a whole different operation where I would just carefree, living in the comfort zone. You know, I worked out this morning, I'm gonna take my son to the park, or I'm gonna take, I'm just gonna work out once. So that 12-week period, I'm training 2-3 times a day. I'm doing my recoveries, I'm doing my PT, I'm doing my massages, I'm doing everything that I can to get the edge to be primed on the end of the 12 weeks. So it's crazy because we have to diet, we have to become in great shape, we have to, make the weight class. Hopefully we're not injured going into the fight. To be able to peak on that one day. You can feel amazing. You have every day for 12 weeks, and you show up on fight day. There's been some times where I show up on fight day just so exhausted, just drained, miserable, feeling horrible, left my fight in the gym, trained too hard, overtrained, and you still have to go out there and fight. So it's about, for me, I feel like it's different every camp, obviously, because I'm having different opponents that I have to train for. Some guys are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, so I'm doing more groundwork, or some guys are Muay Thai experts where they're gonna kick your freaking head off, so you have to do a lot of Muay Thai sparring. So it's different, but I like going into that 12 weeks where I have 2 or 3 fights a year. I think me and Jeremy kind of stapled that down to be a healthy amount of time to get that balance in life after, where one year I fought 4 times in the UFC, and it was constant. I mean, my body was broke down, tore down from it, but I was able to, catapult myself into this position that I was in to be a world champion. But for that 12 weeks, I literally just eat, sleep, train, repeat. And I just fixate on the goal at hand. That's getting my hand raised in one way or another, and making sure that I do everything that I can in my power when I step inside that octagon, that I know that my confidence is through the roof. Not because I'm the fastest, not because I'm the strongest, not because I'm, the meanest fighter in the world. Just know that I've put everything in that 12 weeks into this one night, into this 15, 25 minutes to go out there and win. And, it's just so nice to have a guy that's balanced on all areas of his life to, hey, how are you going to church? Are you staying in relationships with your family? How's that stuff going? So you always, we always each week, kind of just go over bullet points of, what we need to do. So I think balance and just getting those goals, and then, like I said, going in there for the, extended amount of time, and just like, I'm going to go here and kill this sales week. For 2 weeks, I'm going to just devote this, night and day, and kill it. So I feel like that's healthy to do, and then you fall back and come, get to enjoy life and live, and then you do it again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man. I'm fired up.
Yeah. About
Go.
that.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm curious. So I'm actually curious on a more finite standpoint of like pre-fight, you're ready, you have to get your brain right, you got to get into the zone, right? And you got to shut out everything, and then you walk down to the octagon, and while you're fighting, your brain's probably going 100 miles an hour, but you have to stay. So I don't know too much about UFC, so I don't know how this is. I don't know a lot of the things that go into it, but I look at it from a rep standpoint, especially from a lot of the new reps that are out prospecting a lot. It's like, you're going out and you're calling on 10 or 15 doctors a day. Sometimes it's a mixed bag. You don't know who's gonna want to talk to you, who's not gonna want to talk to you, and sometimes you get 2 or 3 no's. It starts screwing with your head.
Right.
So like if you get a punch out of left field, it's like, wasn't expecting that. How do you get your mind right pre-fight, like at the beginning of the day when you're getting ready to go out? Like what are some of the things you do? And then while you're in the thick of it and you get thrown a curveball, how do you keep that positivity that you've been consistently talking about to continue through your day to make an impact?
Yeah, for me, just asking about fight day, kind of, like I said, 12 weeks, and it boils down to the one fight day. You hope you wake up on the right side of the bed ready to go kick some ass. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you feel like waking like shit. But, for me, it's I get up in the morning of fight day, and we do a shakeout. We call it a shakeout. So we just cut all that weight, and we just reloaded ourselves. We probably gained 15 to 20 pounds before we fight. So then I get up in the morning and do a shakeout just to get the sweat going, get the blood moving, the body moving. So then we go back and eat and kind of just rest the rest of the day, kind of kick your feet up, kind of just, for me, I'm always, wouldn't say scared, maybe it is, I don't know, maybe just anxious because of the unknown. I think fighting for me is the unknown. Probably like the same in sales reps. You're going to call this doctor, and hopefully he says yes when we get a good sales, and sometimes you're going to say no. It's like the same thing that I'm in the back in my hotel room getting ready to get picked up by the UFC and go to the venue, and then you're in there waiting again. It's a waiting game. You're like, you're waiting for the answer, you're waiting. I don't know until I'm actually in the octagon and my hands raised and I'm back in the green room that I won. But the whole lead up to it is just so, for me, it's I would say I would get anxious, like a good anxious, because I don't know what's going to happen. I truly believe that I'm going to win this fight, but in my field, it's one punch and we waking up in the back of the room like you thought you won and your coach was telling you got knocked out. Been there before. But, it's the same thing with getting saying no. You got to just kind of trust in yourself, trust in, your ability to bounce back. And I feel like being resilient is what we're all gifted with. We all have that in us. How many times you say no or get told no, or how many times you lose a fight. I feel like in my life, I'm going to win more fights than I lose. You got to kind of take that mentality inside. You guys are professionals as well. You're going to probably hear a lot of no's, but you're going to hear some pretty nice yeses that's going to put you above, and just hold on to those, because those feelings, like for me, when I win a fight, it's freaking awesome. I enjoy it. I get to go spend some time with my family, eat some pizza. I look forward to that. Just like you guys probably look forward to the extra checks and the bonuses and ranking up in the office. But the same thing, how it feels to get told no. And I know how it gets, as with the loss. So I think it goes back about why I love fighting in my life. It's about balance. Going back to the balancing. The balance is so important to know that, like I've always was told from a good coach of mine from a younger days that, you're never too high off a win, you're never too low off a loss. Know that these days are not always going to be here. You're always going to be on a high off a win, you're not always going to be low off a loss. So just being balanced, trusting yourself to bounce back from a no, bounce back, keep level-headed, humble from a yes. But just honestly, for me, it's like the fight day is just anxious because I do not know what's going to happen. I try to keep it together. My mom comes in, I'm like, oh yeah, awesome, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to get my ass kicked. You beat my ass way worse. So because she comes in all that, sometimes kind of like unsettled a little bit, because I'm her son and I wouldn't, want my son to fight. It's not a career I want to, push him to do. But so I know that, but I'm like, oh, I'm good. But inside, I'm like, man, I'm scared. I'm scared what's going to happen in there. But when I fight with that kind of being scared, I feel like my senses are more on. I feel like I walked in, I'm like, oh, I'm the baddest dude on the planet. Nothing, nothing can stop me. Nothing can hurt me. I feel like that's when you get humbled a lot. And you see that when fighters start getting, more of that, believe in their own hype. That's why I said hype can die. You can kill hype always. And so definitely, I feel like just being humble, for me in my career, no matter what. But just having that anxiousness of being in there. Fight day is crazy. I mean, the whole fight week, especially with COVID, the last fight, it was like we got there 2 weeks before, we had to quarantine, we had to do all these COVID tests. I literally was sitting in a hotel room by myself with no one. Usually people come out and see me for fight week, we go to eat, we couldn't leave the hotel. So it was like literally, I'm just waiting around to go get in a fight. Like I have a week and a half of just feeling like this, I'm gonna go fight this dude. You know what I mean? Like it was very anxious during this COVID period. But I was able to, hone down and kind of just, have a really good week with my coaches, game planning. I mean, I feel like I knew this guy, what he was going to do before he threw it. So, but I'm saying, just being anxious every day, like at the fight day, I wake up and just super anxious and unknowing. Just like when you call, you probably got that butterfly in your stomach. I walk down the octagon, I'm getting my music's playing to go to the octagon. I'm like, man, what the hell am I doing? I'm about to walk in this cage again, like there's only two ways out, you either win or you lose. And I have that feeling every time I walk down the octagon. And this time it wasn't like no one was in the arena. I'm like walking, I'm like, oh, wow, this is pretty crazy. And you see Dana and you see some of the people. So it was really different this last fight. But I feel like once I step foot on that octagon and I feel the canvas and I just feel like this is where I need to be. This is where I'm at. This is where I'm on the right path. Just go in there and trust in your training and do it. So fight day for me is just a lot of emotions, but I just try to control those balance, just like you guys do with calls. You know, yes or no, you gotta just control your emotions, and you know, you got 15 more calls to do and go kill it.
That's it. Are you guys fired up? Ah, man. So I just want to thank Cody on behalf of myself, the company, everything. Just for you to take time out of your schedule. He's got, you know, if you ever see Cody's schedule, is insanely packed out. But to spend time with us, man, is I believe we say it all the time, like iron sharpens iron. You know, you become like the people you're surrounded by, and it's a blessing to have you with us tonight at dinner and just hanging out.
Party.
Yeah. And so with that said, can we give him a standing ovation just for being with us today? We love you, man. And the best is yet to come. All right. Very last part. Is Devin right there? I just want to make sure we've had meetings prior, or Kristen, do you know the outline real quick for dinner tonight?
Yeah, 7 o'clock at Mulvaney's. If you want to meet in the lobby at 6:30, we can get everyone Ubers over there.
Okay, so what we've done before, so you definitely want to be, no matter what, if you have phone calls or business or whatever you need to do, be in the lobby at 6:30. We've always tried to do is like a happy hour before, like a 5:30 to 6:30 kind of thing. At Revival, it's on the 3rd floor. So if you go up and you want to freshen up, get ready, all that, you take your time, whatever you want. From like 5:30 to 6:30, we'll be grabbing drinks at Revival for an hour, and then we'll take off and go to dinner. So that's kind of the plan. And then just for clarity, is tonight the awards banquet?
Yes.
Is that the two? Okay. So tonight's gonna be a blast. It's one of my favorite nights of the whole year, because like Cody was saying, you work